Hey pillars, and welcome back to another race recap. We're taking a look at how Tour of Flanders 2022 was won. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, if you're just here for the race highlights, there will be a timestamp on screen, so feel free to skip ahead if you're here for just that. But if you want more information around the race, profile, stats, riders, all the juicy information that comes with race recap, then we're going to get into that right now. Now, taking a look at the course profile for this year's Tour of Flanders, we're starting in Antwerpen and finishing in Oudenaarde. Hopefully I pronounced that properly, but today's race is 272 kilometers long with an elevation gain of 2,281 meters. So in terms of it being one of the monuments in cycling, along with a Belgium classic in terms of the cobble climbs, you know, I love the Tour de Flanders. Obviously, some of the cobble climbs are just iconic. Now, one of the climbs I'm very excited to see is the Padenberg, 0.4 kilometers long at 11.7% average gradient. Cat 4 climb, but obviously it's only 72 meters, so it's not like a super long climb. And the last 4 kilometers where a sprint finish could take place is relatively just pancake flat. So that's basically it for the course profile. Very interesting, obviously, when it comes down to a Belgium classic style race. You're going to have a lot of kilometers in the leg. There's going to be cobbles and punchy and short climbs, so it's very entertaining to watch. Now, I do want to take a look at past winners. We have Casper Asgreen, that is the defending champion of the Tour of Flanders. He won in 2021 when Mathieu van der Poel got second that year, and in 2020 Mathieu van der Poel actually won and Wout van Aert actually got second. And unfortunately, Wout van Aert is not here due to illness, which is very sad because he was definitely a top 3 favorite to win the Tour of Flanders. So I'm very disappointed. I'm a big Wout van Aert fan, but in terms of who I think has the best chance of winning it, we're taking a look at the top competitors right now. We have Tadej Pogačar. Anytime he lines up to a race, in terms of any race that is, you know, he's a shoe-in favorite to actually win it. So this is his first time ever at the Tour of Flanders, and seeing how he's done in the other Belgian races he's taken participation in this year's pro cycling calendar, he's done extremely well. So I think he's just learning, and I think he definitely could do a lot of damage. Obviously, because he does have the climbing ability on those short punchy climbs, he can do a lot of power and try to, you know, basically split. That's what I would assume his game plan is, because in a sprint against someone like we have Mathieu van der Poel or even Michael Matthews, it's just not going to happen because he is not a sprinter. We have Matej Mohoric, that's obviously a top competitor for today. Mathieu van der Poel in third right now in terms of the listing of who has, I'm pretty sure, the most points, so that's how they kind of rank who are the top competitors. But I would say Mathieu van der Poel, big shoe in favor. Obviously his size, his dominance, the fact that he can stay on insane acceleration in terms of you know, his power to weight ratio, in terms of just a pure, you know, grit that he has. Even when we saw in Milan-San Remo, he just doesn't want to get dropped. He'll do a monster effort to stay with riders that maybe have a little bit more of an efficient you know, power to weight ratio. He can stay with them. So Mathieu van der Poel, always a shoe in favor when he lines up, and I think he's doing really well from his back injury from the Olympics. So, you know, big shoe in favor. That's why I would say who has a chance, the most likelihood to win today's race. And with that being said, I don't want to ramble too much, but I obviously love talking pre-race my thoughts. So with that being said, we're going to go into the race highlights right now. Now, jumping into the race highlights for the Tour of Flanders, like I said at the beginning of this video, above 250 kilometers of racing. So in terms of a breakaway getting established early on, the peloton is not too concerned, allowing them to get some space, because sub 100 kilometers left in the race, the pace will increase. So they're not too concerned who goes up the road. But UAE's Tadej Pogačar, shoe in favor to win today. He actually was involved in a short speed crash. So it wasn't a high speed crash. It was pretty short because the road was going from wide to narrow. And that's common in these Belgian races where it gets very narrow. So he just got caught up in a pretty low, not very severe crash. Now this is the breakaway up the road, which is going to be at the head of the race for the majority of today. Now in terms of bike changes or even wheel changes, a lot of flats in the Tour of Flanders, and obviously with disc brakes we see it can be quite finicky. Like, there was a lot of problems. I don't know if the rotor wasn't adjusted properly, but we saw this wheel change take a lot. So I just want to note that that's always interesting to see these new wheel changes. But all in all, you know, you never want to have a flat in a bike race because it just takes so much effort to catch back on. So that was basically, you know, very funny to watch just how long it actually takes to change a wheel. Now it's with 50 kilometers left to go in the race that the original breakaway is finally caught, and this is where alarm bells within the peloton will start going off, because people are trying to make decisive attacks to win the Tour of Flanders. So we do see a 2-man breakaway actually get up the road that is successful for a while. Dylan van Baarle from Ineos along with Fred Wright from Barn Victorious, and this will send the other favorites pretty much chasing full gas because they don't want to move like this going up the road road with sub 50 kilometers left to go in the race. So you'll see the favorites right now on screen. They're trying everything to really increase the pace to catch these two riders. So right now, both of them are going up the Koppenberg, but we will see the favorites going up soon, trying to catch these two riders. So we see Tadej Pogačar just absolutely doing what he does best when it comes to climbing, and he's going to split the group of favorites. Casper Asgreen out the window. Mathieu van der Poel stays on Pogačar's wheel, and this is where a three-man chasing group actually gets established, where it's Mathieu van der Poel from Alpecin Phoenix, he's on the front, and then Tadej Pogačar for UAE, and then we have Valentin Madouas for FDJ. So as the group of three approach the Timberg, they're going to catch the two-man breakaway that's up the road and create their own group of five. And for Tadej Pogačar, he does want to drop the majority of these riders because in a sprint he would definitely not win, so he's going to obviously, you know, rotate and work with them for a while. They only have a 42-second time difference in terms of the chasing peloton, so Tadej Pogačar has to wait for the correct cobble climb to actually do this. So on screen we have the chasing peloton. They only have 52 seconds to close it, which is obviously important, but this group is working, I would say, relatively well together. I would say watching this, Mathieu van der Poel didn't pull extensively in terms of, you know, he didn't do it super hard. He was trying to, you know, be on the reserves, knowing that he's going to have to save his legs for the sprint, but obviously he's still willing to work, obviously closing future attacks from Tadej Pogačar that most likely will happen because we already saw one which actually split all the favorites. We have Tadej Pogačar in the peloton trying to actually bridge across, but without the help of Wout van Aert, that's just not going to happen. So unfortunate for Tadej Pogačar, but it's on the Uitquermont that the five-man group is basically going to get evaporated. So we have Dylan van Baarle popped off the back because Tadej Pogačar is drilling it on the front, and the only rider that can respond is, you guessed it, Cyborg Mathieu van der Poel. So just incredible to see on this cobble climb the likes of everyone in that group going from a five-man group to a two-man group. Tadej Pogačar is the only rider in this group that could drop everyone, and Mathieu van der Poel is able to stick on his wheel. So that is all the drama that happens on the Quermont, and the only other climb that Tadej Pogačar can drop Mathieu van der Poel is going to have to be on the Paderberg, because on paper he cannot beat Mathieu van der Poel in a sprint. So obviously they're going to work pretty well together with 50 kilometers left to go. You'll see them working pretty well, I would say, at this point in time. But obviously on the Paderberg, if Tadej Pogačar wants to guarantee win on Tour of Flanders, he has to give it his all, which we're going to see on the Paderberg right now. 12.9% average gradient, and he's going to try everything to drop Mathieu van der Poel. And Mathieu van der Poel looking extremely strong, but there is one section where he looks like he cracks, but he just gets back onto it, turns another gear in his cyborg legs, and sticks like glue onto Tadej Pogačar. So at this point in time, Tadej Pogačar is basically going to have to settle for second, because on paper he cannot beat Mathieu van der Poel, the cyborg, in a sprint. So with 1.3 kilometers to go, we have another cat and mouse finish. Mathieu van der Poel on the front. Tadej Pogačar didn't want to take one more pull. So this is where it gets scary, because you have two other riders that are going to be pretty much behind trying to catch Dylan van Baarle and Valentin Madouas, and it basically all comes together, and you know, Tadej Pogačar messes up his own sprint for second place, where he basically finishes fourth because he got boxed in because he was playing cat and mouse with Mathieu van der Poel. So I want to show you guys right now in real time what happens. He starts his sprint way too late, but Mathieu van der Poel is obviously so strong, it doesn't matter. He'll sprint away from Madouas along with Dylan van Baarle, so it doesn't matter. And then he gets boxed in terms of Tadej Pogačar. He can't even sprint, and he basically messes his chance up to get on the podium for the first time, and that's totally his fault. He's definitely triggered, because he could have easily got a second place for his first Tour of Flanders appearance. But I do want to break it down, so I want to show you guys right now. So we're going to watch the sprint down in slow motion. I want to show how Mathieu van der Poel actually just destroyed Tadej Pogačar, and how Tadej Pogačar basically lost second place. Obviously, he could have got on the podium, but basically they're playing it very cat and mouse. He doesn't want to launch first because he doesn't want Tadej Pogačar in his split stream. Tadej wants him to launch first because he wants that split stream effect. So right now, these two riders here that are going to come on screen, basically he starts sprinting, realizing that they're going to be behind, and this is just an uh-oh situation, because his sprint is not as good as theirs. I would say with them having the acceleration, they're playing cat and mouse, so they're already going slower than these two riders. And because Mathieu van der Poel has that acceleration, I'm not trying to say that Tadej doesn't, but obviously sprinting wise, Mathieu van der Poel does. So when he starts sprinting, he's able to have enough separation, but he starts going backwards, and he gets boxed in right here. And Mathieu van der Poel, you know, still can outsprint any of these riders specifically, and Tadej just going backwards. And he kind of gets his acceleration up, and this is where he kind of gets maybe a touch on his shifter, and he gets very pissed off. He puts his arm out, kind of hits him. And at that point in time, his sprint is already messed up. Emotions are flared up. He just realized he's not even going to be on the podium. So just a very bad day, I would say, for Tadej. Like, he messed up big time. I think the reason why Tadej Pogačar just didn't get on the podium was on the last section where he should have pulled through. He just didn't. So right here, well, even before that, right here, he should have easily done a pull through, which he didn't. So kind of Tadej's fault. I wouldn't blame anyone else. And obviously, if you're going to play cat and mouse on the Tour of Flanders, then you better be sure that your sprint's pretty good, because in that situation, I just would have said, you know what, I didn't drop Mathieu van der Poel. It is what it is. I would have loved to won, Tour of Flanders on my first time here, but I didn't. So, I can't complain. I'm going to take second place, but now he gets fourth. So very foolish. I'd say Mathieu van der Poel played it extremely perfect. The fact that he could stay with Tadej on those attacks are just a testament to how good a form he is, even after the injury with his back. So all in all, the Tour of Flanders was won basically because, I'll give you the point form version. We have Tadej doing all the work on the cobble climbs. Basically, Mathieu van der Poel is strong enough. He can stick with him. And when it comes down to the sprint, Mathieu van der Poel is going to win if all the other, big sprint finishers are gone. So he's like the best of both worlds when it comes to, sprinting. And it's because he's able to stick on those climbs because of his power to weight ratio. So just what a day for Mathieu van der Poel. And that's how the Tour of Flanders were won for 2022. So if you guys did enjoy this video, smash a like, subscribe to the channel, and until the next one, keep on pedaling.